Hello and welcome to today's episode of What About the Children? And you're here with me, Rosie Gill-Moss, and joining me from, you don't normally live that far from me, but you're at university at the moment. I've got Roisin Aldridge. Welcome, Roisin.
Hello.
Now, for the super fans out there, you may recall an episode I recorded with a lovely lady called Lisa, and this is Lisa's daughter. And you've very, very bravely sort of volunteered yourself, haven't you, to talk a little bit about the impact of losing a parent. So it's a really, really emotive subject. I'm expecting there's going to be tears at both ends today. But I think if we're able to do this and put out this catalogue of stories, I think it's a really powerful resource for anybody that might be going through what me or your mum went through, or any sort of young people out there who are thinking, am I ever going to recover from this? So, Roisin, I'm going to ask you just to tell me a little bit about the day that your dad died, and you can talk in as much or as little detail about your relationship with your dad, who he was. I want to hear about who your dad was to you as well as the impact that him dying had.
Okay, so I was very, very close with my dad. I was definitely a daddy's girl. We had like same sense of humour. We're just very, very similar. So it was 1st of December that it all happened.
And how old were you at the time, love?
I was 10.
10,
20
goodness.
now.
So a whole decade, and that's quite important as well, because that's half your life with and half your life without. That's quite significant, isn't it?
It was it was 2 days before. Well, I was 9 actually. It was 2 days before my 10th birthday.
Oh, well, that was inconsiderate of him.
No, it was a bit inconsiderate. But no, where it was I'm halfway point now. I've done half my life with, half my life without.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, I noticed that because this was the 10-year. That's just the December that's just gone.
Yeah, and I found 5 years really significant because it was such a chunk of time, a real significant amount of time. And I mean, my little woman's only 6 months, so she passed that milestone quite soon. But Monty was 7, so next year will be his sort of. He's been gone as long as he was here. And actually, because you were 10, you will have some quite firm, solid memories of your dad. But I bet you feel sometimes like it's slipping through your fingers a little bit, like those grains of sand.
Yeah, if a lot of the time, if someone was to ask me what I was doing when I was 10, I'd have no idea. But I remember a lot of just that day.
Yeah, of course you
and
do.
then a lot of. Pardon?
Sorry, this is the eye contact thing because I don't look, so I interrupt. I do apologise.
That's all right.
And actually, I think it would be really interesting to hear your sort of timeline of that day and what happened, because I bet it's quite different to your mum's, because we try and shield the children when something of this magnitude happens. And it was a sudden death as well, wasn't it? Your dad went out and didn't come home, basically, which is, it's almost impossible to comprehend as a grown-up, as a 10-year-old. And like you, I'm a total daddy's girl, and it would have devastated me. It would now. So I think that, you have my heartfelt condolences that you lost your dad, and B, you have my enormous respect for coming on and talking about it. So if you're able to, just tell me a little bit about that day.
So, to be honest, I don't remember what was going on in the morning as such. I remember
it was a normal day up.
We had it's a really random memory, but we all had toasted wraps.
Nice.
For lunch. And I remember that my dad had one, I had one. And he left to go to work because he worked over in Betherston. He had a unit over there, which we'd go to a lot. He had this little meeting room in there, so we'd all just sit around, and he had loads of Biscoff biscuits, so we loved going and just eating. I'd make him coffee and stuff. But he went off to the office because we were going to a Christmas service, because it was the 1st of December, with our grandparents, my grandma and my granddad, his mum and dad. And yeah, I just remember him going with a rap. And he
Yeah.
drove off, and we always just, it
And
was
it's
happy
that
because we just said
normal,
bye.
right?
Yeah. Um, and then we went to this Christmas service, and I remember in the middle of it, my grandma and granddad kept getting phone calls. Um, and it wasn't too much of an uncommon thing to be in a service, but I know like nobody has their phones on or anything, so I was thinking, why are they answering their phone in the middle of a service type of thing? And they kept going in and out of the room. But I was with my sisters, and we kind of didn't really know what was going on. We were supposed to be going home afterwards, but we didn't. And we just thought it was a bit strange, but we thought our plans probably changed. So one of my mum's friends, it's one of those like, those people that you say is your auntie, but they're
I was
not.
going to say, is it an auntie
Yeah,
that's not an auntie? Yeah.
yeah. It was my sister's godmother. So we went round to her house, and we watched films. I remember it was a Saturday night. No, it was a Sunday night, so we watched Strictly. I don't remember why, but I was grounded at that point. My dad had told me that I was grounded. So I was like, Daddy told me I'm not allowed to watch TV. And he was like, I think it'll be all right. I won't tell him. And I was, just doing all of
It's all
that.
sounding just kind of really normal. And as a 10-year
Yeah,
old, you just kind of go with the flow, right? Your parent or your mum tells you you're going somewhere, you go. And at this
yeah.
point, are you just thinking, I mean, what is your little 10-year-old brain thinking? Are you wondering why you're there?
So I didn't know what was going on. Um, I don't remember thinking anything strange of it
Probably because you were
because
kept
we
safe.
used
You
to go
felt
round to her
safe.
house a lot. Yeah, we
Mm,
used to go around to her house a lot, and we do all sorts of strange things, get a takeaway, watch films, um,
doesn't
play
sound that strange.
games, and
Wonder what you're
do
going to
all
say.
sorts of things. Yeah, so that's what we did. Um, and then we went home. Um, so I was all excited. We'd like played games, we'd watched films, we'd just done all sorts of things. I just remember coming home, and there was lots and lots of people in the house. All of the family were in there, and Mum was just in the front room on her own. Um, but I remember going through to the kitchen, and I was all excited, and I was saying, "Oh, look at this! Oh, we've done this! Oh, we had this for dinner." And I was like, "Why is everybody here?" And everyone just seemed really, really sad. They were like, "You need to go in the front room to talk to your mum. Your mum's got to talk to you." So all three of us sat on the sofa. And my mum said, Daddy was at the office today. Um, and I can't remember everything that she said, but she just went, and the only things I probably remember is went, and he died. And I just remember starting screaming. I was crying. Yeah, wasn't.
Gosh. And how old were your sisters?
Uh, I
Let's put you
was
on the
no.
spot.
Ashton would have been 7, and Kira would have been 6.
So
Yeah,
you're the big sister here. So you sort of automatically probably sort of felt a need to protect your little sisters. Or I'm just thinking that being the eldest, I know this happened with my son. You sort of get thrust into adulthood quite quickly in that moment. Your childhood sort of, it shatters, right? It shatters. There's no other word
yeah,
for it. And that I've gone really goosebumpy because I know that noise. I know that noise. My kids made that noise, and it's something that you never want to hear a child make, or anybody. Oh gosh, and I'm picturing your poor mum sitting in the living room waiting to tell you. It's
mum was
horror.
mum was in tears, and I was really confused, and then obviously she told me, and then yeah, I I just remember crying and crying. I didn't know what to do with myself. I kept feeling sick and I couldn't sleep properly for a while.
So these
And
are really kind of adult responses as well. This kind of anxiety impact where you can't eat, you can't sleep, your brain stops working. And these are all things that we're aware of happen to grown-ups when they get this sort of devastating news. But I think in the kind of chaos of a bereavement, we almost forget what's going on in your little heads, because children will, and I don't know about you and your sisters, but my boys, because obviously Tabby was too little, I told them they made the noise, and then
yeah.
about an hour later they've got Harry Potter costumes on and they're playing, and I genuinely thought my kids were psychopaths. I thought like they just it hadn't registered, honestly. And then through meeting other bereaved people, I realised that actually that's a really common trauma response in children, is that they kind of feel it and then their brains sort of protect them a little bit from the magnitude of it. I mean, what happened and what happened next? So you've just received this horrible, horrible news, and I'm guessing it doesn't feel quite real to you, because when it comes out the blue like this, it can feel like somebody's almost playing a trick on you. You're in a film.
Yeah. I my memory of it isn't 100% because it was 10 years
You
ago
were
and I was 10
10.
years old. I was 9.
Mine isn't
So,
actually, so don't you feel bad about that, because I
yeah.
can't remember the details. And I think, again, I think it's your protection mechanism.
I obviously remember being told. I remember I couldn't sleep properly. I was just upset. Um, we didn't go to school on the next day because it was a Monday. Um, I don't remember what we did on that day, if I'm honest.
Probably stared
Um,
blankly into space, rocking.
yeah, I just. And then on the Tuesday after it, it was my birthday. But I just remember I couldn't sleep, and I was just saying I remember coming downstairs to my mum saying I can't sleep, I feel sick. Um, yeah, I and I forgot it was my birthday.
Well, and for a child to forget their birthday, that's a big deal, because we all know how excited little ones get about their birthdays, and particularly hitting double figures. Did you have presents or anything? Did mum manage to pull something out of the bag? Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
she might have done.
Well, if I'm honest, I don't remember what I got for my 10th birthday.
Not do I.
Um, I remember I had it was only like recently that I realised it was the same year, but a I had a birthday party. I can't
Gosh.
remember how long after. All of that time is very, very bit
Yeah,
hazy.
yeah.
But I don't know. We had like glitter tattoos. We had little dancing bits. We had games. Um, I don't remember what else was going on. I remember it was only the other week my mum told me that my teachers at school came to help out
Oh, did
with
they?
it
Oh, that's nice.
because they were friends of my mum's. So, but I remember it was a good party,
Well,
kind of. I think
Monty's birthday was a month
for a 10 year
after.
old.
Yeah. And I did a class party, a Harry Potter party. And I've just got this memory of being stood in the kitchen at this party as everybody's kind of, milling around. And there's a very inappropriately dressed Hermione Granger, did not book the right Harry Potter impersonator. And just kind of looking out and thinking, what am I doing? Like, life is just going on out there. But your mum will have been absolutely intent on making sure that you didn't miss out on having a birthday and trying to keep things as, I'm going to say, normal. Nothing's ever normal again,
Yeah.
but because you just have to keep. I'm going to swear, but you're 20, so it's fine. You just have to keep fucking going, right? There's no,
Yeah.
and yeah, and trying to create happy memories at a time when your world has been shattered. And of course, it's December, so you're rolling straight into Christmas as well.
Yeah. There wasn't many weeks left of school because it was 1st of December till Christmas. But we only did half days at school. So we'd either go in the morning till lunch, or from lunch until the end of the day. But I do remember going in. Went in the afternoon on my birthday.
On your birthday.
So it was like the second. It was 2 days after it had all happened, and I just gave my best friend a really big hug.
I was going to ask you what that was like going into school, because what were you, be year 5 back then?
Yeah,
So
I was in year
you
5.
and what were
Um,
because I know at Monty's school they did so Monty and Hector were at the same school, and they did an assembly when the boys weren't there, and with the I don't think they had the little ones in. I can't remember, much like you, it's a bit of a blur. And they sort of explained what happened, and it was a very small. It's Eastling School. I don't know if you know it. It's a tiny little school out just outside Faversham. But my eldest, when he went up to secondary, he didn't tell anybody, and I actually don't know. He's moved schools. I don't know. Haven't really asked him whether he's told his friends, because he keeps that quite close to his chest. And I'm just wondering what the reaction at school was like, because a parent dying is this. It's the storyline in Disney films, in children's books. It's always the protagonist overcomes this enormous adversity. So it's portrayed as the worst thing that can happen to a child, and it's happened to you. And children, a bit like when you're widowed, but you're almost a bit kind of like, oh my God, like the untouchable, because that terrible thing has happened, and people almost feel that they might be tainted by it. I'm sort of rambling here, Oisin, but that is what I do. um, but I'm just picturing this, these 3 little girls going into school, and it's just, what was the reaction like from your peers and from the school?
um, so on the Monday, the day after it happened, I think my mum had obviously told in the school, or told in, sorry, that's not a word, told the school, or I don't know, someone in the family had,
Yeah.
because obviously we weren't there. And I remember my friend saying that they had said about it in the morning assembly.
Mm,
So we were quite a small primary school, so everyone knew everyone type of thing.
yeah.
And yeah, that got told to everybody. I remember they made me a big card. I just remember that it was like little pieces of paper. They wrote a little note inside and then drew a little picture on the front, and then it all got stuck in one big card,
You still got it?
which was quite sweet. I still have it at home.
I've still got because Hector was in reception, and the little ones all sort of drew pictures. I've still got that put away for when he's a bit older. And and I think primary school, you perhaps people are a little bit more sympathetic to it and a little bit kinder, and just. But when you went up to secondary, were you open about the fact your dad had died, or was this something that you didn't share?
Um, well, I was quite lucky compared to my sisters because I had my cousin Tobias.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the same age as me. He's born in September, I'm in December. We're in the same school year group. Um, so went to primary school together in the same year, went to secondary school together in the same year. So we didn't really talk much in secondary school because,
Yeah,
you have
boy,
your own
girl.
groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but we always knew each other were there if we needed it.
Yes. You got a bit of an ally in your
Um,
camp kind of thing.
yeah. And well, when I went to secondary school, the teachers knew, and they had like support while we were there. So if we needed it, we had counselling and things like that. We did have one form of counselling in when I was in primary school as well, but I don't remember a lot of it, if I'm
I think
honest.
often we panic and we get the support for the children very quickly. And actually, what I'm now seeing is that it can take years for a child to be ready to process. And yeah, did you do holding on, letting go?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
that
I
was.
remembered your mum saying.
I still remember doing it. Me and Tobias were in the same group, but there was a lot that we did. Um, Ways like figuring out ways to deal with things, ways to express different emotions that you might be feeling. I remember one
Yeah.
of them was like, if you're feeling angry, we got like big piece of paper,
The,
rolled it
the
up,
rolled up
and just
newspaper,
hit a
yes.
chair with it.
Yes,
That was
I
one of
help
them.
out
I remember
sometimes on
that.
grief weekends, and that's one of my favourite activities.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monty did
Um,
it, and it was very, I think for him, it was very helpful to be around other people that had been through it, because we talk a lot about, as a grown up, feeling as though you're a bit of the troll under the bridge, nobody quite knows what to do with you. And as a child, again, you feel, I mean, unless you're horribly unlucky and you're in a school where other people have lost a parent, you are going to feel a little bit like a pariah, a little bit sort of an outsider. And actually, children, lovely as they are, perhaps don't make the best confidence for talking about things like this, because they haven't got the emotional capacity. But the reason I ask is because one of a common fear is being bullied for having a dead parent, which I just think is so disgusting. But of course, it must happen for people to be afraid of it. And did any of you suffer anything like that? I'm not trying to pull trauma out of you. I'm just curious.
no, I don't think I feel like I would remember, but I didn't
Yeah.
really have anything like that. There would be cases where someone would bring up their dads or their situations, or they would say something about it, or um, say we were like, I don't know, reading a book in school, and there would be like a part where a dad dies or something like that. It would bring some stuff up. But I used to have we had this thing called an exit card.
Yeah.
So it was just like a little piece of paper that my house office had signed. So if I needed 5 minutes, I could just show it to the teacher and have a little moment, and then I'd be fine.
Mm. Yeah, and actually, the way you're describing the way the school supported you is kind of what we want to hear. Is that they did put in place systems and processes for you to kind of. I mean, because nobody wants to sit in a class reading out loud a passage from a book where a dad dies when they're processing their own trauma, and unfortunately, sometimes children are forced to do this. It really does seem to depend on where you're at school and how compassionate they are. Now, when we before we came on mic, we had a little chat about the importance of honesty with children, and this is not a criticism of your mum in any way. It's more just to try and figure out, because sometimes when something like this happens, we kind of fudge it a bit. And like I said to you before, I told my boys that the police were at the door because of the dog. And it took quite a lot of therapy and talking to unpick this kind of underlying, I'm going to say mistrust, but that might be too strong, because I'd broken his trust. And I'm a big non-liar, it's quite a big thing for me. But of course, you think in that moment that you're doing the right thing. And I suppose what I really want to know is, speaking as somebody who has lived this horrible experience, what would have helped you in that moment, or what perhaps caused extra complications? Are you able to give me anything like that?
Wait,
You can say.
sorry.
Sorry, I asked my questions in a very rambly way, Roisin. I do
That's
apologise.
all right.
I know what I'm trying to get at. I guess what I'm trying to say is, were you kind of given a softer version of things that you and then found out different things afterwards? Yeah.
So I think my mum said to me that he was working under his car at the office, and then it fell on top of him and he died. That's kind of what I think she said. I don't know ins and outs,
Mm.
because I don't know. She might
And
have, to be honest, she might have told me exactly what happened, and I don't remember it.
no,
But
and it's a particularly kind of gruesome imagery attached to it, isn't it?
yeah,
It's yeah. I can't. I saw a drowned body on the TV once, and it just sent me into a panic attack. And for some reason, unbeknown to anybody else other than my peculiar brain, I was trying to research whether his body would be found the other day. So I typed into Google, how long can a diver stay under the water? I lasted about 3 seconds in that Google search before I had to back away, because there are some things I don't want in my head, And I'm
yeah,
thinking that intrusive imagery and things must have been very difficult. Because, again, if you don't, sometimes the thought of what has happened is almost worse than the reality. Yeah. So, Roisin, when Ben died, and subsequently, as I've witnessed other people go through this same tragedy, or not exactly the same, that would be weird. Um, everybody also, the reason this is called "What About the Children" is because that's what everybody asks. What about the children? And I guess by doing this, one of the things I'd like to is I want to hear your experiences, but I'm also really interested in what would help, because we're all very good at guessing what children need, but to actually hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were. Just think anything that maybe hindered your healing, or anything that really helped support you through it. And I know we touched upon the support you got in school, which is amazing. But just any sort of other ideas that you could throw into the ring would be really helpful.
One of the things I found helped me as well. I went to Holding on Letting Go.
Mhm.
That helped quite a lot. We had things that we do every year, or like, it sounds really silly, but like every year on his anniversary, we'd get a curry, because that was his favourite takeaway.
But see,
So
that's lovely.
so that's something that we've done every year on the same on his anniversary. Even this year when I've been at uni, I came back. Well, it was on a Friday, so I came home straight away.
I was
I
wondering whether you'd
finished,
done it
and
from
then
via Zoom.
no, I came straight home that
How'd you curry?
weekend. Um, Another thing that helped me was that my mum was part of Way, yeah,
Yeah.
and she met someone on there in the same situation. Her husband had died, and she also had a daughter, well, two daughters. And her oldest was the same age as me, and we both dance. So we kind of had a bit of a pen pal situation.
That
We got each other's
was.
numbers.
I know who this is. Kirsty.
Uh, uh, Veronica
Am I wrong?
Curry.
Oh, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm totally wrong. I thought it would be like I interviewed Kirsty, a lady called Kirsty who's got a. Actually, I talked about your age who dances, and I was like, oh, I know who this is. Well, and actually, that is so important, peer support, and we seek it out for ourselves. But I've noticed, because in fact, once my son asked me, "Do I have any friends whose husband hasn't died?" Because you create this sort of social network, for want of a better term, and what I've seen is how the children they don't talk about it, but the awareness that other people are in the same boat, I think, is so important.
Yeah, I um I mean, as Erin, my name is. As we've
Hi,
got
Erin.
older, we've been very busy, but we used to message all the time, even if it wasn't about that. But we've
Yeah.
become really good friends. We're actually planning to meet up, but she lives in Scotland and I live in Kent, so we're complete opposite ends of the UK,
Do you know what?
pretty
I've never been
much.
to Scotland. I really want to go. I think I keep looking at these sort of Caribbean looking beaches in Scotland and thinking, why don't we go? It's not that far. Anyway, I digress. Now, you mentioned your mum being part way, and your mum was the first person I met after Ben died, who was a widow. And she reached out to me via way, and I can still. And I was talking to John about this morning. I can still remember pulling into the car park at Dobby's in Ashford and getting Tabby out, put her in the pram, and sort of going through the motions, and then turning the buggy around to face the garden centre, and just thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just going into a garden centre to meet a load of widows. I have no idea what to expect. And your mum was just so kind to me. And I can remember her asking me how Ben died. And at the time, you sort of almost want to tell your story. You want to be asked. And they didn't flinch. Do you know, it was just, it made me feel like I had a bit of a hug around me. And so, yeah, your mum was a really integral part to me starting on that healing journey. Horrible expression, but for want of a better one. Um, I'm going to ask you now, if you don't mind. I'm going
Mhm.
to ask you about your mum getting remarried and how you felt about
Yeah,
that when she first met. It's Chris, isn't it, that she's married to?
Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Um,
that can be quite a explosive situation, particularly as you would have been a teenager by this point.
yeah. I remember I was in secondary school. Um, But I just remember going into my mum's room at one point, and we were just chatting, as you do. And one of the things my mum says was, "What would you think if I met somebody else or started talking to, you know?"
Mm.
And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Not necessarily marrying someone else, but just having someone there
Companion.
that I can talk to." And
Yeah, you don't want to
because
think about the other stuff, do you?
she's on her own, and yeah, to be fair, I didn't think about anything like that, if I'm honest.
Sorry
Apart
for
from
putting that
yes.
thought in your head. I do apologise.
It's all right. I can't remember how old I was. I think I was about, I want to say 13, 14. But
And sorry, carry
I
on.
don't know why I remember the first time he came round. Because he's really tall. He's 6'3", 4. And he's got quite a deep voice. And he came through the door and he was like, "Hello." And I was like, "Oh, it's a big scary man."
Yeah. Yeah, and
He
it's that sound
came,
of a baritone in your voice when you're, because even my dad, the kids, well, Hector particularly, he in the early days he sort of took against my dad because they were living with me, and looking back, I guess it was the sound of a male voice in the house when you're that the only male voice that's been in your house really is your dad, and so to
yeah,
hear that come back in again must have been quite strange. I mean, I'm feeling quite sorry for Chris actually walking to a house of 3 girls and having to make a good
yeah.
impression.
I don't know. I just remember him going into the front room. It looked like we were interviewing him, to be honest, because we all sat on the sofa, and then he sat on a chair in the middle of the front room, looking at all of, like, in front of the TV. So it must have been a bit. I remember he had his keys in his lap. Ooh, sorry, kicked something. And my dog Bose was just all over him, giving him a sniff, and I didn't really think a lot of it. I was just thinking, "Oh, it's a man in the house," type of thing. I don't remember the next time I met him, but he's a really nice guy, and there was a bit of family politics, let's say,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
um, I've never had a problem with him, and I'm happy if my mum's happy.
And do you know what? I think that speaks volumes about you as a person. I really do. Because it can feel like a betrayal. And one of the expressions I'm probably boring everybody to death with is, I use the word death there is that when you have a baby, you think, I'm never going to love another baby. Like I can still remember panic phoning phoning my mum at about 8.5 months pregnant with Hector going, I'm not going to love this one as much. And her sort of saying, you will, just wait and see. And of course you do. And it's a bit like that. It's obviously not maternal love, but you think how it almost can feel as though you're betraying their memory or you don't love them anymore. And of course, that's not true. I still love Ben as much as I did the day he died, and I will continue to love him forever. I wear both. I don't have. I wear both wedding rings on each hand, and he, there's pictures of him around the house, and we haven't erased him from history, which I think is perhaps the fear when people meet somebody else. But they got married. Was it last year or the year before? I've lost track of
Last year,
time.
it's coming up.
Last year.
Well, yeah, it was 15th of April last year.
Oh, okay. Oh God, that isn't even that long ago. I've got no concept of time at all. And were you guys bridesmaids?
Pardon?
Were you
We were
bridesmaids?
bridesmaids. Yeah.
Lovely. See, that's a sign of real acceptance as well, which must have been so nice for your mum.
One of the things my mum originally said when she said about talking to someone else or being with someone else was that she really, really wanted to make it clear, like, that they're not there to replace.
Yeah.
Which I thought was obviously one of the most important things, and so do my sisters.
And it's really key that
Um,
your mum felt that she could say that to you and have these quite grown-up conversations with you, because, like I said, a lot of the time we tend to shield children from grown-up relationships and feelings. But actually, by having that open dialogue and her saying to you, "I'm not replacing your dad," immediately that fear kind of dissipates, doesn't it? Whereas
yeah,
it's skirting around the elephant in the room, but you have to face it head on.
she said none of the so we've got pictures of my dad around the house. So they were saying none of them will ever come down. We'll never stop talking. We'll never stop doing our traditions. Um, and whoever I potentially meet will have to accept that,
Yeah.
and will also have to accept that sometimes me or my sisters or my mum even do also get upset about it, and
Yeah, I can speak from experience saying there's something quite surreal about sobbing about your dead husband on your alive husband's shoulder. But we live in a
I
slightly
can imagine.
surreal dynamic here. There's nothing normal about our
Yeah.
lives anymore, is there? Um, Now, Roisin, I'm going to just ask you, because we do feel at the point of something of this magnitude happening, that our children are going to be damaged irreparably. I can't say that word, beyond repair. And yes, I know that you are, because your dad died, and you are, you'll be thinking like he won't walk you down the aisle if you choose to get married, and there's all the secondary and losses that are associated with this. Because as you get older, you don't necessarily need that dad figure. You don't need somebody to walk you to the shop or take you to school, but the awareness that he's not here is grows bigger, because you're a completely different person to you were at 10. And I often look at the kids, and to be honest, it's anything to do with the kids that will break me. It's any award they get or anything like that. Um, but I think the way that your mum has kind of wrapped herself around you girls, and I think I said before, this kind of open dialogue, it is so important. But I guess what I'm asking you in another very convoluted way is, are you happy? Do you feel like you will be able to live a fulfilling life even without your dad by your side? And I know that's quite a difficult question to ask.
Um, yeah, yes,
Mm,
but at the same time, it's like that's because I don't know any different now,
mm. And it does
and
taint
because it's.
everything, I think, as well.
I think. How do I phrase this?
The way I say it is that I'm happy and sad, and I coexist
Yeah,
with both. And there is nothing I can do that's going to take that sadness away, because unless we can magic him back to life, I mean, I'd have some questions to answer, wouldn't I?
yeah,
But I can't do that. There's not, and I say to the kids, that's the only thing I can't give you. I can't give you dad back, but what I can give you is a good life. I can make sure that you lead a good life. And by that I mean, that they are given affection and they got to school most days, and you build a sort of a safe haven for them. And I guess that's, and I wasn't always brilliant at it. I had alcohol problems. I don't drink anymore, but just to make sure that the children feel loved and secure, that's kind of all you can really do for them in that moment. And I do think teaching from a young age that it's okay to be happy and sad, because I used to feel horribly guilty if I was happy, because I felt I was
yeah.
betraying Ben. But of course, I obviously I never met your dad, but having talked to your mum and now talked to you, I feel like I know quite a bit about him. Gavin, his name wasn't. I feel like I'm looking at you and I'm seeing this, beautiful young woman who's off at university studying musical theatre and living a full life. And I think everybody expects you to go off the rails, to have addiction problems. These are all the fears that we have, that we won't catch you. We won't catch you when you'll slip through the net. And I guess by talking to you, I hope you're giving me hope for my kids, and I'm hoping that that is the same for other people. But I do think it's important that we don't look at a young woman or a child and think, oh, they're fine, because it might have happened a decade ago. But there will be times when, for you, it's as real as if it was yesterday. And I just think it's important. We will talk about the resilience of kids and how they can bounce back. And I do think it's important that we don't underestimate the impact, but that we also encourage you guys to go on and live your life. And because that's the greatest gift that you can give your mum, and it's the greatest sort of legacy that you can do for your dad.
One of the things that I did when I was younger, I used to do like ballroom and Latin lessons. So I'd do that every week, and it was kind of like my moment where I didn't think about anything but that. I think that's partly why I've progressed in my dancing so far, and why it's part of what I'm doing now. Because it was like my
Yeah.
one thing where I didn't think about what was going on. I just,
Yeah, I
it's something
think
I
you're so
wanted to
right.
do.
And it's, I'm no dancer, believe me, but if I even go to a Zumba class, you're so busy thinking about not tripping over your own feet or what you should be doing that you can kind of, you can put that pain to the side. And I do like to mention in every interview I do about my marathon. I did one marathon and not very fast. And actually, I did
I
it for
did
holding
run a
on, letting
marathon.
go. Look at I. I don't know what I was thinking, but I got round and I did it for holding on, letting go. And as I was training, I weirdly used to like the fact that everything hurt apart from my heart. Well, actually, my heart did hurt because it was pumping quite fast. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You couldn't think about how
Yeah.
shit your life was in that moment because you were focusing on other things. And there is a book called Outrunning Your Demons, which is a quite good book, and it's sort of about people who've turned to running to beat addictions or bereavement and things. And actually, I think any activity, particularly physical activity, is brilliant. And one of the things I tried to get my boys to do was martial arts. But don't you do martial arts or your sisters?
Both my sisters, they both do
Yeah.
taekwondo.
I knew I had a connection with your family there somehow.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't take to that, but
well, you were too
both my
busy with your
sisters did.
dancing.
They're very, yeah.
I'm thinking this is a bit unfair, though. If both your sisters are doing taekwondo, you don't want to cross them.
Yeah. I think I went into my sister's room the other day and just told her to get out of bed to look for something for me. And I just jumped on top of her and I instantly got a and I was like, ooh.
Could you do a little cha-cha-cha back?
Grab a Latin heel and just dush.
Yeah, you could do some damage with those, right?
Yeah.
Well, Roisin, I'm not going to force you to talk to me for much longer because it is a tough ask, this. But is there anything that you wanted to add? Is there anything that you wanted to sort of any advice you can give? And feel free to say no, but I wanted to give you the opportunity before we finish.
I don't know.
No, that's okay.
I'm
I
trying
put
to
you right
think.
on the spot. I put you on the spot,
I know.
my lovely.
It's all right. I think before my dad died, I wasn't as close with my mum as I was with my dad. But obviously, with having just my mum since, I've got a lot closer with my mum, which is a good thing.
I think
But
sometimes.
one of the things my mum noticed was that I've got a lot of his like mannerisms and humour, really, really dodgy humour sometimes.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'd say some really inappropriate things sometimes. Oh God.
I even some of his humour I wouldn't have heard at that age. I'll just spit
It's funny,
out,
isn't it?
and it will sound like him sometimes. My mum will
And
say stuff like that.
do you like that? Do you like being told that you've I that's made me go goosebumpy as well, because I really, even with Holly, who I never knew her mum, obviously, because that would be strange, but even I can see sometimes that she looks so much like her, and I always make sure I say so, because I think you're right, their legacy lives on in you and you are half him. So, DNA is a powerful thing, and it is uncanny how you guys can replicate somebody that you only knew for such a brief period of time. And it must be nice for your mum. I know Ben's brother, one of his brothers, looks very like him. And when he first came to the house, I couldn't look at him. Whereas now I take quite a lot of comfort in the fact that the kids look like him. So we change and we grow and we learn every day. And I think you're an incredible young woman. And I know that your mum is so proud of you. And actually, perhaps one of the reasons you grew closer as well is because you watched your mum pull herself up that mountain. And that creates an admiration, because many people can and do crumble under that sort of trauma, and she didn't, and nor did you. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go back to uni things. God, I miss being at university. Actually, I don't. I still have nightmares. I haven't finished my degree. But it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I know that it's been a really difficult conversation because, well, it is, isn't it? I've dragged you right back into 10-year-old grief. So, thank you for bearing with me and for answering so honestly and so eloquently. You are, I think, not even knowing your dad, I know he'd be very, very proud of you.
Thanks.
So for anybody that's listening and may have been affected by today's episode, you can reach out to me on Instagram, or you can email the show at widowedaf.com, I think, but John may have to correct that. But for now, everybody out there, you take care of yourselves, and I'll be back with you soon. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you think someone else may benefit from this, please do share. We'd also really appreciate a quick review. It helps more people find the show. Thank you again, and see you next time on Widowed AF.